Hello, this is Todd Luck, and this is a review of The Rise of Ultraman issue 4 from Marvel Comics. So let's start with the cover here. So the cover, like all of them, is not reflective of the inside. We have Ultraman and Hayata, his human host. Ultraman is, obviously not as big as he should be, but he is larger than Hayata to indicate that he is a giant, which he is not in this issue. So again, not reflective of the interior. I'm assuming the city we see in the background is Ultraman's homeworld, which is fine. And then for some weird reason, we have an incredibly stereotypical looking Japan with Hayata. I don't understand it, not reflective of the interior at all. Does not look like, anything we would see. And I'm scratching my head. This would be the equivalent of if Ultraman merged with someone from America showing the Old West over here. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know why this cover got approved and is on here, but that's going to be kind of an ongoing theme with my review here. So the story continues to be slowly paced and filled with cliches, and the artwork continues to be kind of sketchy and minimalistic, and at times it's a little hard to tell what's going on around the characters sometimes. And sometimes the storytelling between the writing and the art is just not that great here. So for instance, in this scene, they're outside and they're zapping a couple monsters. And so they look up and they see a science patrol ship, okay? But keep in mind, this is the very next panel. The ship is in the air, and we see the person inside of the ship now on the ground. How did this happen? Did he teleport down or something? I don't know. This is absolutely mystifying. But just in case you think like, oh, well, the ship just needs to land. Somehow he got down on his own. The ship is landed in the very next panel, and they're running towards this guy, yelling at him. So almost no time should have passed between these panels. We're talking, maybe a second or something. And somehow the ship has just teleported down to the ground. I really, honest to God, cannot tell you what the hell is supposed to be going on, especially when we take into account that there are monsters in the background directly behind these characters that no one is addressing. It's just so strange. I have no idea what is supposed to be going on here. As was hinted at in previous issues, the monsters are being teleported away when they shoot them with the K-ray to another dimension. And we see that dimension, and of course it happens to look like the containment unit from the Ghostbusters cartoon. Probably a coincidence. I mean, this is pretty generic, like alternate universe sort of stuff. But the thing that makes it mystifying is they say that it's overfilled with monsters, and then you get a panel like this with no monsters in it, but showing this big expanse of what the dimension looks like. Plus, there are all kinds of things from Earth, like the subway car and stuff like that. No explanation how they got there. Just very strange. Did they miss with the K-ray or something? Or I don't know. And the kicker is how they get Fuji out of this dimension. Ultraman zaps himself with the K-ray, goes in, and then instead of zapping them to get them out, he just zaps the air and creates a portal, which you would think would be really obvious that that's going to let a monster through. And sure enough, it does. Like, duh. And for some reason, this doesn't occur to anyone, including Ultraman, who's supposed to be this, higher being that's super intelligent because he's from an alien race. But the most bizarre thing is how they reveal that the monster got out through that portal that Ultraman left open. We see this giant sound effect, which is kind of covered up by a word balloon, but it's still noticeable. So there's a big sound effect. And Ultraman does not turn around to look at the sound effect, but says, "What calamitous sound?" I have no idea what, like, is there a typo here? I mean, I kept trying to read this panel over and over and over again. I cannot figure out how I'm supposed to read it that could possibly be correct. I mean, why would he hear a sound behind him and be like, "What calamitous sound?" I don't know what this is supposed to be. But at least we do get a decent splash page of Bimular appearing on Earth, finally at the end of issue 4 of a 5-issue miniseries. This entire 5-issue miniseries, and keep in mind the first issue was double size, is covering the same amount of territory that one episode of the old series did. But this simple splash page, along with a simple splash page of Ultraman from last issue, are probably the best things about the artwork. Otherwise, as you can see, it was getting really sketchy and stylized, just not really what I would hope would be on a book like this. If you're basing it on a TV series, wouldn't it be amazing if Hayata and Fuji actually look like Hayata and Fuji? I mean, you can redesign them and give them different hair or whatever, or different clothing, but wouldn't it be cool if they actually looked like the characters are supposed to be? And aside from the awkward storytelling weirdness in this issue, I mean, the story is just not that good. We find out that they've been sending so many monsters to the other dimension. It's about to burst and unleash a bunch of monsters on Earth, and that the monsters grow over time and they become giants. And another thing, as you probably noticed, Ultraman was human-sized the entire issue, and he is a chatty Cathy. Ultraman is talking non-damn stop, which to me is kind of the completely opposite of what Ultraman is. He's a giant who doesn't speak a whole lot. He grunts, when he fights, and that's it. He has an ability to communicate psychically sometimes, but he uses it very sparingly. There are episodes of an Ultra series like this. There was a episode, I think, of Ultra 7 where he was human-sized and he was like talking up a storm with the alien he was fighting. But I didn't like that either. To me, this is just completely 100% missing the mark. This doesn't resemble Ultraman in any way, shape, or form, and it just seems derivative of all kinds of other things. It seems derivative of everything except for what they're actually adapting. So I'm going to reserve my judgment on the whole miniseries until I get the last issue, which is next month. But so far, just not impressed. And there is no solicitation for the ongoing series or next miniseries I'm assuming this sets up, but that does not mean that one isn't coming. It could just mean that there are skip month or skip months before we get the next Ultraman comic that Marvel is putting out. At this point, though, I would be pretty content if it ended with issue 5. And I hate to say that being an Ultraman fan, but there's just a lot better stuff out there. You can check out my retro reviews, and it's so far kind of a disappointing addition to the American Ultraman comics. So that's it. Like and subscribe for more videos, and until next time, what calamitous sound. See ya.